Now, please join me in welcoming the writer, director, producer of Good One, India Donaldson, and film critic Beandrea July.
So let's give it up for India.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for coming out tonight. Congrats on the film.
Thank you.
So tell us, everyone always wants to know, what's the genesis of this project? Do you remember when the idea first came to you?
It was sort of a convergence of many different things. I had been trying to make a different film for many years, and sort of out of the frustration of the challenges of independent filmmaking, I wanted to write something that was really designed to be makeable, on a limited budget, and without sacrificing the visual and emotional kind of storytelling I was interested in. And shooting outdoors was a big part of that. And I also wrote it when I was like early in the pandemic. I was living back at home with my dad and my stepmother and my teenage half siblings, and sort of reflecting on my own adolescence through my proximity to them. And I hadn't really before that time thought about making um, a movie about a young person, but felt inspired to.
Yeah, I definitely felt the sort of Gen Z teen sensibility in the film, for lack of a better term. So what was just to break down like the timeline? So like how much time passed between when you had started writing the script to when the movie got made?
It's hard to remember exactly, but I think I wrote it in 2020. I had a child early 2021,
Okay.
and then I read the script maybe when my son was 4 months old and had a whole new perspective on the parents, the two men, and I did a pass on the script that in my memory, I think I had a little more empathy for. I mean, I think I always had empathy for them. I was always interested in making them, full, complex human beings. But yeah, had a new understanding of the challenges of being a parent, maybe. And um, that was 2021, and we shot it in 2023. So a couple years.
Yeah, yeah. And I understand that you had a pretty tight timeline for shooting. Your shooting length was not long. So how did you navigate that knowing you had, well, tell us how much time you had and then how you navigated that.
We shot the movie in 12 days. Thank you.
Clap for that, please.
um, which was only possible. Firstly, we spent so much time preparing. So part of the casting story of the movie is I met Lily Collias, who plays Sam, through my younger sister. They were in school together, and one of the sort of unexpected, very special things about how the movie came together was meeting Lily in that way. And she was a junior in high school. She was 17 when we met, and we just didn't have the budget to shoot with a minor. We would have, limited our work hours, and just couldn't afford it. And I knew she was the one, and so we waited a year. And but we used that time, I'm sort of informal prep. We scouted the location as many times as we could. We just really had a very dialed in plan by the time we went into those, that really intense, but, you know, we had fun. I had so much fun. They were a hard 12 days, but we all just kept saying we just need a movie at the end of it. And a lot of things had to change. We had to be very flexible, but yeah, somehow we had a movie at the end of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear that you had basically like a year of pre-production because you can really feel as you're watching the film that like you really know the movie you're making. Maybe it didn't feel that way when you were doing it, but it's like very clear, it doesn't lag, it's like I'm on this journey with you. Was this your protagonist, your main character, her first role in film?
Her first lead,
Okay.
she'd been in one, had a small part in one other film, but yeah, really her first big experience.
And how was that, being a first time feature director with a really new actress? How was that working together?
I mean, she's incredible. I mean, just easy, honestly. She spent that year working, she knew it was her part and she spent that year preparing. And I think part of how effortless her performance is how much work she put into it leading up to it. And part of it was us getting to know each other, her getting to know James, who plays her father. Um, but I never once saw her look at her side. She knew that script inside and out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about Sam. She's kind of like an old soul, um, and sort of mature in the way that like the world asks teens to grow up now because of, digital everything. And I wondered about the issue of boundaries in the film, because that to me is like the core part of it. Just that was my takeaway. And I noticed we were talking earlier, and when I watched some of your shorts that you made in the past, that seems to be a recurring theme of like characters reckoning with boundaries in relationships. So tell me, what is it that, makes you want to talk about that?
It's definitely an interest of mine. My sh- in my shorts depict unboundaried women for the most part.
Mm,
And I have found myself, being interested in the ways in which people um, who don't who are not adept at saying what they mean or communicating in a healthy, effective way find other ways to get what they want or express what they want or need. And I think there's a lot of humor in it too, in our human unboundaried behavior. And with the Matt character, primarily, there's two sides of it. He's kind of a showboat. He likes to hear him, or he doesn't want to hear his own thoughts, so he just talks to kind of fill the void. And um, but I think boundaries come into play for all three characters, not just that one. But similarly, this idea of yeah, just how to set boundaries and what it means for them to be crossed. Yeah.
right, right. So I'm thinking about that moment, there's a turn. It's kind of awesome how you set it up structurally because there's sort of, we're on this hiking trip and then there comes this moment sort of past the midpoint, but still leaving us a chunk at the end of the movie where there's a turn, but it's very subtle, but also not subtle at the same time. And I guess I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that moment where Sam tells her father what Matt said to her. What do you think she wants from her father in that moment? And why can't he give it to her?
I think what she wants is very simple. She just wants him to listen. Why he can't give it to her, I don't know. I think that's maybe a more complicated
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds more like a session for a therapist.
Yeah.
Why do I have issues with my father? Um, yeah, I'll say to the audience if you can start thinking about your questions, some folks here from the Hammer will bring mics around. Um, I guess I wondered also about what do you feel like you learned or what surprises came out of this process of making the movie for you?
So many things. Um, I mean, the thing that's coming to mind right now is I made this movie with a group of people who produced it with me, but were also like really deep creative collaborators. Graham Mason produced it and edited the movie. Wilson Cameron produced it and shot it. And Diana Irvine produced it and acted in it. And it was just, I felt it's so scary to dive in and make a first film. And it's a long process too. And I think I've learned, I think I instinctively knew, but have learned that like profound importance of who you collaborate with, because it's a vulnerable process for everybody and profoundly satisfying when it's working.
Right. Do you feel like, I mean, I know you're just coming off of this press tour and the movie, all the different wonderful festivals that it played at and everything. Do you feel like, okay, I'm ready to make my next movie? Or you're like, oh, I've got to take like a year to just.
I'm ready. I want to make another one.
All right. Okay, great. Awesome. I won't ask you what it's about because I always get annoyed on behalf of the filmmaker when they're promoting their current film and they're like, "What's next?" I'm like, "Don't do that to them. Let them enjoy the moment." So, um, does anyone have any questions? And a mic will come to you. I don't know who is working in the back, but you can do your thing because the hammer. Oh, there we go.
Did you go hiking as a child with your dad?
I did, yes.
Well,
Not as advanced as the characters in the movie, but
well, it was a beautiful movie. Very emotional without emotion. No words. Thank you.
Great. Um, oh no, I don't pick the person. The person with the mic picks here.
Hi. I love the film. It was really awesome. And I do spend a lot of time outdoors hiking, so I was like, yeah. Your answer to the question, what did she want from her father? And your answer was to listen. And I felt she needed to talk through it with him. And she was looking for a reaction from him, and he didn't give her that, and she didn't ask. It was so, the whole thing was just so awkward and awful that she had to absorb it herself. And that's boundaries and all of those things. But I was wondering if you had more to add since you wrote it to that question. I'm sorry. I
No, thank
got
you.
strong feelings about it. Sorry.
Sure, yeah. I mean, a few things. Something I was thinking about when I wrote it, one of the sort of core ideas was just in my memory of being a young woman and being in situations like this. I never felt like I had the words that I wanted to have, the right words at the time. And it was only in, with the hindsight of the next day or the next week or 10 years on that, I've even felt like I knew what I wanted in any given moment. So the truth is, I don't think there's really an correct answer because I don't think she knows. She's still processing. She's in the immediate aftermath of having the rug pulled out from under her. Someone she thought or someone she trusted showed her a different side of himself and how he sees her, and I think she's still trying to understand it. And so I think there are more sort of questions than there is certainty.
I really liked the movie, and I wonder if everybody, the three actors, were kind of working from the same script or the same understanding of what the young woman was going through. I saw I saw her as sort of isolated or alienated from the two men right away, where she was thrown in the back seat, and that alienation sort of increased through the movie, where she have to hide, to put in a tampon or Tampax, and somebody made a joke about it, which wasn't a good joke. It just sort of increased the alienation, the gender male female alienation, and I think at the very end, or towards the end, when she asked her father for an explanation and he wouldn't give it, I think that really broke the relationship, really cemented that alienation, that men and women are really separate and we can't talk. That's, I think, what happened is that, and that's a tragedy, that he couldn't respond. And he really couldn't as a demand that he wasn't capable of, it seemed to me. Did he as an actor have that feeling that that was his character?
That's a good question. I guess I have an anecdote that maybe will answer your question. When Lily and James were shooting the scene where she confronts him by the waterfall, and Lily told me this story later. I think they were just chatting in between takes, and I think she said, what would you like? How would you react in this situation? Like you, James, the person. And he said, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later, and sort of brushed it off. And then I think after we finished shooting the movie, I'm relaying this story, so I don't know if it's perfectly accurate, but the way Lily reported it to me was that he expressed that he didn't want to judge the character he was playing. And so it wasn't about like thinking what James, would do as a father. He is a father, but more just trying to experience that the whole, all of the complex emotions of the moment, which I appreciated because that was the attitude I took in writing the script. Like I didn't want to judge him or Matt, even though they behave badly. I still appreciate them and love them and have empathy for them. And I think Sam, the character, does too, even though it's challenging and they try her patience.
And I'll just sneak in a question here. Sorry to cut the line. Because you mentioned the script, I'm sure we have some filmmakers in the audience and also some screenwriters. Do you have any tips on, process, or tell us a little bit about your writing process?
So the way I approach a script that I'm writing for myself to direct is I write. I have a really clear idea of who the characters are and sort of the basic scaffolding of the story, but not a lot of detail, like not an outline or anything. And then I write really fast and intuitively a first draft without reading anything, like just barrel through, and then so much of the writing and refining happens in the editing process. But I always find that there's some discovery in that first draft that changes so much. But the big discovery of that first draft for me was the campfire moment, the turn. I always knew was going to be part of the script, but it came very late in this first draft that I wrote. And it's like something that maybe more you traditionally describe as like an inciting incident or something, and you see the fallout, but it's almost like inversed. And I was I realized I was enjoying being with these characters and writing the voices of these two men, and so much of my idea of what this movie would be was about her experience of listening and watching and taking it all in, and you kind of need to spend time with them to show that, and also to give the audience an opportunity to kind of get to know them, and then the campfire scene itself is a very long scene, which is sort of a microcosm of the structure of the whole movie. But yeah, so that was something that came out of that first draft that I realized was like an important thing to hold on to.
Lovely. Yeah.
I'm
Looks
over
like
here.
the next person
I'm over here.
with the mic. Go ahead.
Over here. Over here. Side, side, side. So thank you for this. Our daughter saw this and heard you speak. I don't know, very recently. She goes to Vassar. So I guess
My
you.
alma mater.
Yeah. So I hike with my daughter, and there's so many honest moments in this. You know, from the driving and saying, oh, "Don't turn there," and da, da, da. Like we just went through that. 'Cause she's a freshman at Vassar, right? And then to the apologizing for the knucklehead friend, and the generational piece is really powerful too, because there's a way that my daughter has agency that is different than, let's say, previous generations. And so there's a way, and I witnessed it in the film, where the older guys are sort of taken aback, like, wow, you're awfully smart. Wow, okay. And they're both kind of in awe of it, and then not, because what does it mean for them in their worldview and survival? And then the moment, I'm talking a lot, but and maybe there's a question in this, but there's just something in the direct connection. Like, I'm 57, my daughter's 19. I know that. We hiked together. And then her sensibilities and the world that she comes from and how different it is from my world, you know. But I really admire her in the way I'm admiring this young woman who is navigating this really awkward set of circumstances with a certain amount of grace and wisdom. So I think there was a question. I don't know. I really appreciate it. It'll be really interesting to talk to my daughter about, because she told my wife, like, I love this film, and then boom, it pops up, and you're here. So we're here, right?
Oh my God! Wish I could be a fly on the wall when you talk to her about it.
Well, so that's actually kind of what came to mind. Is like it's a intergenerational conversation. You know, like you get a bunch of dads and their daughters and watch the film and now talk about it. Because I almost want to apologize for the men of my generation. You know, I mean, this is my personal thing, so I'm doing therapy. But there's a knucklehead quality, and there's a wisdom and agency in my daughter that I'm really admiring of, but slightly intimidated by. And I'll stop talking.
I love that. Yeah, I get it. That's how when I look at my little sister who's
I'm sorry. Can we try to include the other side of the auditorium, because all the questions have been over here.
when I talk to my 20-year-old little sister, I'm like, I did not have the wisdom that you had at 20, and I'm older than that.
Hi. First of all, I want to appreciate this movie so much. The quiet and moments that let us dive into the movie and experience every word they say. It's supported with this quiet moments so we can actually feel it fully. I just had a question about the girl. I noticed that she's been doing everything around the man, and me and my friend, we noticed that, like, it's like, are you trying to show the sexism in this, or are you trying to emphasize that she's like being helpful for older men, or like, what was this about? Because she was doing everything.
Yeah, she's so capable, and part of it is all of these skills, these hiking, backpacking skills. Her dad has taught her, so part of it is she's using these skills that she has connected with her dad over. Like they've talked about past trips. This is something they do together, but he's so comfortable just letting her take care of him, and all of the work she's doing, really is connected to all the emotional work she's doing, just taking in all of their all of their needs and emotions.
So you mean those quiet moments when she was doing stuff for him? It's like a connection moment was actually happening.
For me, it's there's two sides to it, and they're sort of contradictory, but they exist simultaneously. Like it is a point of connection because she's showing off a skill that he's taught her, and I think he does have pride in that. And it's historically something they've connected over, but he's also it's her kind of she's been conditioned to take care of everybody, which that's the sort of uglier side of it for me.
I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Oh, well. Okay, so I have a just quick two-parter. I don't know the geography out there, but it sounds like you're really deep in the woods. So I'm wondering if you like hiked in and camped for a couple of nights, and if that helped the crew bond, or if you went zip mile in, get what you can get, zip mile out in a hotel. And two, I'm wondering how you have this great, empathetic, beautiful portrayal of a lot of conflicts that are going on in society right now. You have women outnumbering men in college admissions, but you have an entire society banning abortion and the long list of things that one could say that are going on that are extremely anti-feminist. So they're very complex things going on in society. So how do you feel some of your themes and what you're portraying fit into that? Because it, to me, really resonates really well with that.
Thank you. That's a big question. I think I really just approached it from a very personal place, telling one story about one person and her experience in the world. And I mean, the films that most resonate for me are personal films that are highly specific, and I think personal, intimate films can speak to larger, like, political themes just through that specificity, and that's sort of my only goal. I was thinking about the characters when I wrote it. I wasn't thinking about ideas and then finding my way in, if that makes sense. And then as to the trail, we invented the trail, really. We would that remote lookout is 10 feet from a parking lot. But we found this amazing property that we shot most of the film on. We stayed in an Airbnb on the property, and we would kind of load up the gear on UTVs and drive, into these various spots, and kind of, mapped out this invented trek before we shot. Oh, thank you. In upstate New York, in the Catskills.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming out tonight. Round of applause for
Thank you so much.
Good One and India Donaldson.
Watching.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.